Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys. Allow me introduce myself. My name is Dini Minarti Arsulemanti, ID number 441419030, class chemistry education B, 5 semester. Okay, here I will present about modification of sulfur. Title: Modification of sulfur. Objective is: Number 1, to study several modifications of sulfur. Number 2, to study characteristics of hydrogen sulfide and H2SO4. Next to literature review. Sulfur is a crystalline solid that is highly reactive with all elements except gold, platinum, iridium, tellurium, and the noble gases. However, sometimes it exists in the form of a neat slip song. Sulfur usually occurs as sulfide and sulfide minerals. Sulfur is a chemical element with the atomic number chalcogenide group 16 or fewer chemical elements of the periodic table. Sulfur is an essential element for life and is found in 2 amino acids. In addition, sulfur is abundant, cheap, and environmentally friendly. Okay, next. Okay, so friend, you can see here are the tools and material that will use it in the practicum. In the tools and material, tools and category 2 and material. Okay, next to experimental work scheme. Modification of sulfur. Okay, start blended 0.5 gram of sulfur in evaporation cup by heating the sulfur until it melts and fries. Observed crystal stripes. Next to star, heated 0.5 gram of sulfur powder in the last tube while shaking the tube. Observe the sulfur color change. Finish. Okay, experimental work scheme. Characteristic of sulfur acid. Star, had a pitch of copper in a test tube containing 1 mil high to S over not boiling. Next, observe the activity and the test tube. Next, read the reaction equation. Bubbles appear in the tube. Next, transit the filter paper mixed with K2CR2 over solution in the mouth of the tube. Test tube in step 1. Observe the color change in the filter paper. Read a reaction equation. A filter paper that was originally yellow turned with brown. Finish. Okay, experimental work scheme. Star, put sucrose into the test containing 1 ml H2SO4 not boiling. Observe it and take note the activity in the test tube. When heated and turned into black solids, finish. Okay. Next to experiment work scheme, Star put 2 ml of acetic acid into the test tube. Add 2 ml of ethanol and 2 ml of con- con- contrasted how to offer. Heated the test tube using a Bunsen burner. Observe it and take a note the activity and the tube. Observation: the heated solution causes bubbles to form and smell like inflatable balloon. Finish. Okay, next to observation result. Treatment. Number 1. Modification of sulfur. Modification of sulfur. Blended 0,5 gram of sulfur in a fraction cup by heating the sulfur until it melts and let it freeze. Observation. Number 1. When the sulfur melts, the sulfur is red. Number 2. After freezing sulfur from crystal. Okay, treatment. Next, added 0,5 gram of sulfur powder in the tube. Observation: change color from yellow to brownish. Observation result. Treatment characteristic of sulfur acid. Added a pinch of copper in a test tube containing 1 ml H2S over not boiling. Observation: bubbles appear in the tube. Next to treatment, flush the filter paper maintained with K2 CR over solution in the mouth of the tube. Test tube. In step 1. Observation: filter paper that was originally yellow turned with. Put sucrose in the test tube and a few drops of concentrated H2S over. Observation: when heated, it turns into a black solid. Next, on treatment, put 2 ml of acetic acid into the tube, 2 ml of ethanol, and 2 ml of concentrated H2S over. Heat the test tube using a Bunsen burner. Observation: the heated solution causes bubbles to form and smells like an inflatable balloon. Okay, next to discussion, modification of sulfur. In the sulfur modification experiment, there were two different treatments, namely heating the sulfur in a fraction dish and in a test tube. When sulfur is heated in a fraction dish using a hot plate, the color changes from yellow to red and the sulfur melts. After being allowed to stand for a minute, the sulfur solidifies and crystallizes from. The reaction that occurs as plus O2 SO2. Next, they heat the sulfur in a test tube. When sulfur is heated in a test tube using a hot plate, after 5 minutes, the sulfur melts and the color changes from yellow to deep red. This is because there is an effect of heating speed, where if the temperature is increased, the color of the sulfur will be darker. Okay, next to sulfuric acid characteristic. In the sulfuric acid characteristic experiment, the first thing to do is add a pinch of copper in a test tube containing 1 ml H2S over. When heating takes place, bubbles are formed. After the heating process is stopped, the color changes from clear to brownish yellow. The reaction that occurs in this experiment is a fall. Cu plus 2H2S over menghasilkan CuS over plus 2H2O plus SO2. Next is to put filter paper mastering with K2CrO4 solution at the mouth of the test tube in the first experiment. Then heat it. When heated slowly, the yellow color on the filter paper reacts purple off or turns white. The reaction that occurs this experiment is as follows. K2CrO4 plus CuSO4 menghasilkan CuCrO4 plus K2SO4. Then the next step is to put sucrose into a test tube and 10 drops of concentrated H2SO4, then heated using Bunsen heating. When heated, the color changes to black. And the last step is to put 2 ml of acetic acid into the tube, then add 2 ml of ethanol and 2 ml of concentrated H2SO4. Heat the test tube using a Bunsen burner. During the heating process, the heated solution causes bubbles to form and smells like inflatable balloon. The reaction that occurs in the experiment in a follows. C how 3 COOH plus C2H5OH plus H2SO4 menghasilkan CH3COOC2H2 plus H2O. Okay, next to conclusion. Based on the experiment that have been carried out, it can be concluded that the modification of sulfur can be seen from chunks in the structure of the sulfur itself, which is worked by a change in color and the formation of crystallines. As for the experimental characteristic of sulfur acid, it can be concluded that sulfur acid has the property of being an oxidizing agent, which is chelate in oxidizing agent. Okay, thank you for attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.